Join us for lively discussion about the A-State community. Each week, we'll meet with a variety of faculty, staff, and students to discuss all things Arkansas State University. Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections.
And this is A-State Connections on KASU and ASU-TV. You can also listen by searching for Red Wolf Radio on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Johnathan Reeves, Academic Advisor for the School of Media and Journalism and the Department of Communication at Arkansas State. It's hard to believe, but today we wrap up our season of shows by talking about two ways students can get involved in media at Arkansas State. ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio are available for students to run shows and get valuable on-air experience. Telling us more about this are ASU-TV Station Manager Easton John and Red Wolf Radio Station Manager Quentin Takacs. And thank you both for joining us here on A-State Connections.
Thank you for having us.
So, Easton, tell me about who you are, where you're from, and how you came to Arkansas State.
So, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. And, when I was looking for colleges and Arkansas State popped up on my list, and when I went to tour it, it stood out like a sore thumb. Like, when I came here, the program is just unbelievable. And just being able to connect with so many different people is awesome. And, yeah, it's just, when I toured Arkansas State, it was pretty cool.
Very good. And Quentin, tell us about, same thing for you, please.
So in high school, I've always been wanting to do radio stuff. So when I was looking for colleges, I was interested in their radio program. And being in Oklahoma, we have a few schools that have radio, but those schools are super expensive. And so I found Arkansas State through my counselor, who accidentally applied me for Arkansas State.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
So I thought it was U of A, but I visited Arkansas State after they accepted me, and the head of the department showed me the radio station and everything you can do with it. And from then on, I was hooked about it. So when my freshman year came along, I was all up and running.
Very good. So I always love hearing about the stories about how people come to Arkansas State, especially when you're coming from out of state to be able to do that. And I know, Quentin, specifically, Easton, you've been in the studio an awful lot, doing a lot of shows and all that. And Quentin, I know that you've been doing it as well. How did you first start getting involved in your respective mediums? First of all, with ASU-TV, Easton, how did you start getting involved in that?
So how I started getting involved in ASU-TV was, for a class. And I was in EXP1, and Mr. Dustin Sullivan was teaching that class, and I went to one of the shows that was being broadcasted called Red Wolf Roundtable, and I was so intrigued by how this all worked and stuff. And I've never really learned that. So I asked him, can I come and help out as much as I can? He's like, sure. And this was my sophomore year. And ever since then, my sophomore, junior, and now my senior year, I've just been gaining a lot of experience by the years go by.
Sure.
And yeah, it's just becoming a station manager has been a lot of fun so far.
So tell us about your roles. What do you do as station manager?
So what I do is I set the cable channel. So what you're watching right now will be on our cable channel, and I have to set a list of times and dates when shows are going to be on 24 hours a day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So it's a constant grind, and also I sort of make connections with people and say, hey, are you interested in becoming a producer for ASU-TV or having your own show? And just building connections with a lot of different people is truly amazing.
Quentin, I want to ask you about Red Wolf Radio. How did you start getting involved in that, sir?
So when I got to college my freshman year, I had one goal, and that was to get involved with Red Wolf Radio as fast as possible. I was an undeclared major when I got here, and my roommate, about 2 weeks in, living in Kays, he got me a pamphlet about Red Wolf Radio. It was out of date, but I met up with an old professor named Lars Roberts, and he showed me all the stuff we could do with it. And I wasn't even taking any media classes at the time, and I was making content just for fun for a whole semester before I even became a creative media major.
So for people who are have heard of Red Wolf Radio but are not sure what Red Wolf Radio is, can you explain that, please?
It's a student-ran organization, student-ran radio station where basically you can go in and you can, as long as the show is not like horrible, you can make it. It can be over any topic you want, politics, music, theater. We had a really good theater show a couple years back.
Yeah. And I know that I've heard stories of, for example, international students who've been able to, they knew when their families would be listening on the internet and they'd be able to, kind of put those shows on. And so that way their students be able to do that. But I think it's cool. How many, and I know that you've been trying to build it up, especially after COVID and trying to get that back. How are things going in that regard, by way of getting students involved in Red Wolf Radio?
It comes in waves.
Yeah.
It's hard to work with specifically mostly just volunteers because the only thing I can offer them is it's a passion project.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I can't guarantee there's listeners or anything. You just have to have that want to do it.
Yeah. But how do people listen to Red Wolf Radio?
We have an app called Live 365. You just look up Red Wolf Radio and it's running 24/7.
Very good. Fantastic. So tell us about the different shows that ASU-TV has. I know that once again, Red Wolf Roundtable is one, Easton, that you're on. Tell us about some of the other shows that you all have.
So we have A-State Connections. We
Right.
have State of NEA. We're having my new show that's being presented on Friday. It's called ASU-TV Tonight. And then we also have Walled, which is a escape room show, and it's so fun to watch that, and it's a lot of fun watching our producers sort of take the initiative and go all out for this project. Because I mean, if you've watched Walled when it comes out, it's a lot of fun to be a part of the production, but the different puzzles and how in depth they are, and people are spending their own time creating this project, and it's awesome.
So one of the things that I talked to sports media majors about this is that whenever you're watching, like say, for example, College Game Day on ESPN, you're seeing the byproduct of it. You're seeing, you don't see all the behind-the-scenes aspect of that. But now being able to work on a show like Walled or whatever, does it kind of change the way you view show production? And if so, how?
Yes. I mean, usually when I was a sophomore, I did not know that a lot of, like, what all went into creating a production. But since I've been learning, it's all about, making sure your camera's focused. I mean, just the little things that you got to know, making sure props are in the right place, and making sure audio levels aren't bouncing in the red, but they're bouncing in the yellow. But it's just the little things that have really gotten to me, and yeah.
Right. So one of the things that I know that it's important, obviously, for students to be able to get involved in these shows like ASU-TV, Red Wolf Radio, and that. What are some of the ways that you would, or maybe help recruit people to be able to be involved in this? And we'll talk about ASU-TV first.
Okay. So if you want to get involved with ASU-TV, it's as simple as, just coming in and just having a passion for creating television, creating a show. And once you find those types of people that have the passion and have the drive to want to do this, they can do anything. Because, like, if you think of me as, for example, I just came in asking questions and just asking Mr. Sullivan, hey, what does it take to do this? And now look at me. I'm
Sure.
Right. So it's just asking questions and getting to know people and just having that drive and want to create a show.
Quentin, I think you said this very well, passion on Red Wolf Radio. So same question to you about how do you be able, look for students to be able to come on Red Wolf Radio?
Yeah, so like Easton said, you need passion to want to do it. And any idea you want, the creativity is the sky's the limit. And you can make shows such as, like, I made a show called Indie Education. I ran that for 2 years where I just played music and talked about it. But if you come in the station, the station is your oyster. Those 2 hours are yours. You can do whatever you want. It could be as long as you want, anything you want.
Yeah.
And also, just, I'm going to be real, starting in this industry, we all know it's rough. Like, you're not going to get, paid as the big bucks like Stephen A. Smith,
Right.
or the big broadcasters starting out. You're not going to get that right away. So you have to work your way up, and whatever it is, you just got to find that. And once you have that passion, you have that drive, you can honestly do anything.
And that's one of the things about I've told students. Some students may say, "Well, I'm not sure how to be able to get into the business." These are the ways to be able to do it, to be able to get that valuable experience. Right. And so I think you're exactly right, by way of getting involved, asking those questions and doing that. Before we take a break, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do that early. Let's go into that now because I want to talk about show production and how to start new shows and what that looks like and talk a little bit more about ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio. So we're going to, because I don't want to start... right. doing that, and then we have to take a break. So let's go into that right now. ASU-TV station manager Easton John and Red Wolf Radio station manager Quentin Takacs here on A-State Connections. We'll continue the conversation on the other side of the break, and we'll be right back after this.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option.
KASU, the public media service of Arkansas State University, will present the Arkansas Roots 10th Anniversary Concert, celebrating Arkansas's musical heritage at 7 p.m. Saturday, December 2nd in Riceland Hall of the Fowler Center. Featured artists include Brad Apple, Tim Crouch, Danny Dozier, Earl Hees, Gary Rounds, Pam Setzer, and the Lockhouse Orchestra. For tickets, visit ticket.
Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections.
Welcome back to A-State Connections on KASU and ASU-TV. I'm Johnathan Reeves, as we're continuing our conversation today by talking about ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio. Joining me today, ASU-TV station manager Easton John and Red Wolf Radio station manager Quentin Takacs, and thank you both for joining us here on A-State Connections. So I want to ask about show production, specifically if you're doing it right from scratch. And I know we talked earlier before the break about, your thoughts of how show production, has changed now that you're doing that. Take us through the process of if you have an idea for a new show on ASU-TV, and then we'll go to Red Wolf Radio. How does that come from your initial idea onto the screen? Kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'll bring Red Wolf Roundtable up, for example. You're going to, for your first show, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be kind of shaken, and you want it to go well. But some of the things that go behind the scenes in creating a show is, you have to just have your topics that you want to talk about, and you have to have the personality to sort of back up those references and those points that you make during a sports show. And so the other different things that you have to have are just, the passion and an idea, and making sure that you keep up to date with your sports topics, and you keep up to date with if you're doing news as well, and just making sure that your props or any video content that you want to put on the show is up to date.
Right.
Yeah.
On the radio side, Quentin, I know that some people may say, and I did radio for 30 years, so I know you don't have all the video to deal with and all that. At least you didn't at one point. Now, if you're doing something like this, which could be audio only or audio and video for TV, you have more things to think about. But there's still a lot of steps, too, to put a new show together on A-State or on Red Wolf Radio.
Yeah, for example, my show, I started my freshman year and kept it going for a while. My first episode, I scripted every single word I was going to say for my 30-minute segment. And I did that like twice, and I was like, I can't do this. It sounds like I'm reading from a script, and I don't really want people thinking that. And so eventually I got good enough to where I could like just have bullet points, and eventually I started doing the live thing and just trying to do it from,
Right.
within. But yeah, and there was no guidance on how to start doing the radio thing really for me. So I just kind of had to find my own kind of way of doing it. I feel like production when it comes to radio is kind of, at least for a new show or something, is kind of like a personal experience. Everyone does it differently. I'd sit in the studio and get frustrated because I mispronounced a word and then restart the audio and
Yeah.
Right, and everybody, I'll bring up Stephen A. Smith, for example. If you want to be a sports host, everybody wants to be like him,
Sure.
Loud, obnoxious, having the hot takes, but you have to come to realize that you have to be your own person, and you can't be like other people. I mean, you can, but you have to find you have to find yourself when you're doing these productions. And starting off, if you want to be like Stephen A., great. But then as you go on and you're doing more shows, more episodes, you're creating your own personality. And that's what I like to see whenever we're doing new shows for ASU-TV is people's personalities sort of developing. And that's that's the whole goal for ASU-TV is just watching people develop.
Right. And that way, when they're truly themselves, they can do their best shows.
Exactly.
When they're exactly who they're supposed to be. I've thought about actually doing this on Red Wolf Radio, maybe doing an 80s show, a show of music of the 80s. I think that would be, because that's just kind of what I do, and then maybe do like an hour-long show. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Quentin. We'll talk about that for Red Wolf Radio for sure. So anyway, on that, with both of you being station managers in your respective mediums, what have you learned the most about about what you're doing, about your jobs and those things?
Quentin, I'll let you start.
Yeah, Quentin, go ahead and start on that one.
Persistence is key, and you also need to have a drive, like Easton was saying. You have to create content, even though you don't know people are listening, because in the end, quantity and quality, they'll all mix in.
And there's always someone listening.
Yeah.
There's always someone listening.
Myself, sometimes.
Yeah, so what I've learned is patience, for one, and then listening as well. Listening to other people, making sure that their voice is being heard. If they have an idea, take it all in and then give them the respective criticism back. And just making sure you have patience, listening, and being flexible, honestly, is the one thing I've learned as well is, things aren't going to go your way 100% of the time. So being able to readjust, call an audible, and making sure that the situation is fixed.
Yeah. I'm calling audibles in my head all the time. I mean,
Omaha.
Exactly. Just for once, I want someone to say Red Wolf, something like that. Omaha.
We need Jalen Rayner's help with that.
Yeah, Oklahoma, something like that. So I want to talk to you about faculty members. You've said that you've referenced Galen Perkins, Dustin Sullivan, Mary Jackson Pitts, and others. How have the faculty helped you all in the process of your of your collegiate career?
I mean, they push me. They don't the faculty members that you just mentioned. They push me a lot, but they will not give you the answer. They will not. They strive to work to have you work to get that answer. They're not just gonna give you it. That you have to work to find who you are and find just what you want to be and what you want to create.
Yeah. Quentin?
Yeah, I'd say they make it about as close to the real world thing when it comes to creative media as they can while still being professors.
Yeah. So what's next for you all? And Easton, I'll ask you that first.
What's next for me is, trying to find a job, whether it's in Kansas City or some other part of the United States, just finding a job that speaks to me and is what I want to do and what I just don't want to go to work. I want to have fun and go to work. You
Sure.
know what I mean? So just finding that place is what's next for me.
And it's true. You'll never work a day of your life if
Yeah.
you find something you're really passionate
Exactly.
about and all that.
And my dad always says, like, you have 80 years to figure out what you want to do in life.
That's
so
true.
I'm going to use all those 80 years.
And hopefully a little bit more and all that, so that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Quentin, you.
So I haven't announced it publicly, but this is my last semester as a Red Wolf Radio manager. I've been recently getting into TV production in town. I've been working for CBS and Fox and making commercials there. So I've decided, since radio's fun, but I also want to do other things creatively as well. Yeah. So as long as I'm being creative in life, I'll be happy. And after college, I think I'll try my hand at moving around like a nomad again, and, you know.
Right, exactly. Well, you know, one of the things about it is that with the way that multimedia production is, it's all about, it's not just, you know, segmented in just radio anymore or just TV. Everything is all blending together and that. And even though, yes, you do have the separate mediums still, there are a lot, especially on websites and that. There's, as you all know, there's those different, you know, components that all kind of work together.
Right.
And so that's definitely important for everyone to kind of learn on that, to be able to really do well. So Arkansas State, your thoughts on how A-State has impacted you overall?
Man. You want to start, Quinn? Or you
No,
want
don't stop throwing your questions
I'm
out.
sorry. I'm sorry. Well, okay, so how Arkansas State has impacted my life. And, man, I was not the smartest person in the bunch. I didn't have the highest ACT score. So I had to write a letter to them saying this is why you should have me as a student. And they accepted it, and they gave me a chance. And I'm so glad that this university has, because I'm so grateful for all the opportunities they've brought me. And yeah, it's crazy that this university that it's so impactful, and it's not the biggest campus in the world, but it's a campus that speaks to me, and they have given me a lot, and I appreciate every single person in this university for that.
Quentin? Yeah.
So in high school, a lot of the faculty, mostly my counselor, didn't really think I'd go to college after high school. But when I got into A-State really gave me that chance to, learn and do things. And they didn't hold a grudge against my ACT scores, and because I'm more of a creative person than I am a study person, and they let me be as creative as I wanted to be, with also maintaining my grades.
Very good. So tell us about your shows that are coming up. Easton, I'll talk to you about that. You said you have ASU-TV tonight.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So it's basically our spin on a Tonight Show sort of thing, and it's going to be myself and Ty Phillips, and we're going to just go back and forth talking about funny news that's going on right now.
And there's a lot of funny stuff to pick from.
Exactly, there is. So we'll be discussing those, as well as sit down. We're going to be talking with Colby Wood. He's one of our ASU-TV producers who produces Walled, and sort of dive into his mind about what he is going to do with Walled and what he's got coming up. So yeah, it's going to be fun. That's
going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And tell us about, you have any projects that's coming up, Quentin?
Yeah, other than just the TV stuff at CBS, I'm keeping up my passion podcast and indie education that streams on Spotify.
All right, very good. So, people, these two, you need to be able to keep them definitely in check. We're going to be seeing a lot of both of you. I'm pretty sure of it. So once again, remember these names: Easton John, Quentin Takacs.
Awesome.
We appreciate y'all so much.
No, thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of A-State Connections. Once again, my guests are Easton John and Quentin Takacs. Give them jobs. I want to thank creative media production instructor Galen Perkins and his amazing students who are always running the show behind the scenes. Also, thanks to engineers Clayton Holderfield and Jacob Keene for their help. And thank you for watching. You can listen to this episode of A-State Connections by searching for Red Wolf Radio Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. And we'll have a new season of shows, A-State Connections, starting in January. See you then, and so long, everybody. Happy holidays.